Welcome to the Success Journey Show. Let's travel together through the lives of individuals on the road to success.
Hey, what's going on, travelers? Ricky Venters and Marlon Madden, and we're back with you for another episode of the Success Journey Show. What's going on? What's going on, Marlon? How you doing today?
I'm doing well, Rick. We have to tell them, we have it. When we first started, I remember when we first started, we were knocking out like sometimes 3 interviews a night. We'll do one early in the morning. We'll do one, and it was going crazy.
Yeah,
I feel like we're ramped it up again. And this is 5 o'clock in the morning. We did this one, right? Yeah. And we had some guys on from the Chapman brothers from the UK. So and it feel like I just went to bed because I watched the whole Laker game, and when they see this, it was game 1 of the Denver Nuggets series, and I could say a lot of different things, but I don't think LeBron would like me after I say it.
Hopefully when everyone sees this is a different story.
Correct. Well, how you doing, Rick?
I'm doing well, man. Doing well. It's like you said, getting up and jumping right into this first thing in the morning. Just bring us back to our old days of recording. We had gotten so much in sync to on a daily basis. We realized, man, that so many people, we want to get so many different stories out there. So it's just going to pull from us in different ways. So like I tell, and you hear a little bit in the show as we talk about it, but Marlon and I, we have full-time commitments that we have, and they're very extremely demanding, right? And a lot of people could use that as an excuse of saying, hey, well, I can't do what I want to do in my life because I have to do this or I have to do that. But if you really want something, right, if you really want to do it and really want to contribute, you got to make room for it. That's just as simple as that. You have to make room for it. Maybe uncomfortable. It may be at 5 o'clock in the morning, maybe at 9:30 at night, right? But you have to make room for it. And quite frankly, if that's not what you're willing to do, then just enjoy where you are, right? I mean, exactly. that's it's either black or white, right? So not to put anyone down or anything, but it's just the reality of it, right? Unless you have the luxury to just quit what you have right now and just do something else, then which many people don't, and just you got to work it in your schedule. Not saying either of us want to quit what we're doing right now. It's just a matter of we just want to make sure that we're maximizing our potential and what we can offer out into this world. So, and this is what we do by podcasting and communicating stories of leaders from all around the world and how they've gone through their journey to get to where they are right now. So, man, me and Marlon are really excited to bring this to you, and looking forward to jumping right into this episode. So without further ado, man, why don't you guys check out our website, the successjourneyshow.com, where you can see some improvements to our website. Also, you'll be able to see some of our previous guests, some of our highlighted guests, and then also just where you can find us at on all the listening platforms. So thanks again for tuning in, and let's jump right into this.
HitDrMD.com.
Oh, yeah. Also, our sponsor, Hit Dr. MD, HitDrMD.com. Go and get yourself a elite swing trainer. Even if you never played baseball, softball before in your life, use it as a stocking cup
Stuffer.
Stuffer, right, for Christmas time. I know it ain't Christmas time yet, but start thinking about it early, and supplies. Why supplies last? I got to start saying that now, right?
Man, we got to talk about that. Supplies. Wow. We've never had this where our supplies are just, I think we're down to our last 10 probably swing trainers.
Down. Yeah.
And our shipment for the new ones, we have it. Complication. Don't worry about it. We'll talk about
supply chain.
Always supply chain, and there's always something curveball in business.
Yep, absolutely. So you just got to pivot and work through it. So that's what we're doing right now, and just grateful that we're in this position, right? So, all right, guys, let's jump right into this. All right, peace.
One love.
You've been listening to the Success Journey Show. You can check us out on our social media on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. Also on our website, thesuccessjourneyshow.com. Enjoy the rest of the show.
Hey, what's going on, travelers? What's going on? We're back with our favorite segment of the show. And we have two brothers here that are really going to allow us to go through their journey together. Man, we're really excited about this, chopping up and learn a little bit more about them. And today we have Dom and Elliot Chapman. Thank you so much for joining us, guys. What's going on? Welcome to the Success Journey Show.
Good morning.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Good morning. I love the commitment. I don't think people or listeners will realize that it's 5 a.m. for you guys, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
I had to shout that out. That is a big commitment. The listeners need to know.
No, man, appreciate it, man.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. When you start doing things international, you got to make sure that you're flexible, and that's one thing Marlon and I are just excited about. And just all of our travelers, listeners all around the world, man. Man, we want to get this content out there to you, right? We want to share these stories. And sometimes Marlon and I, we always share, like, we work 9 to 5s, right? So it's like, hey, we got to record these things at times where it's not convenient for us. Our families, our wives are looking at us like we're crazy. Like, why are you always talking with Marlon all the time, right? But,
You getting jealous?
You got to get it done.
They do.
Yeah,
they do.
But yeah, man, thank you guys so much for joining us. It's an honor to have you on the show. Why don't you start off by just sharing with our travelers, our listeners from all around the world, just a little bit about yourselves.
Yeah, no, thanks for having us on. So, I'm Elliot. I'm obviously one of the brothers, one of the two Chapman brothers, and we sort of make a little joke where we are brothers not out of choice. We're brothers because we were born into this. We didn't need or have to like each other.
Yeah,
we're just lucky enough to like each other. And growing up, we, like most siblings, we got on the majority of the time. And we had some extraordinary fights, which Dom likes to. I'll let Dom tell the story of how we didn't talk over £5 for about 2 weeks, and we had a family interjection meeting.
Oh, man.
But those incidents and those little stories growing through sort of teens and hating each other, fighting, throwing fists, they do genuinely bring you closer.
Oh,
and
yeah.
For us, it wouldn't work for other siblings, but for us, who better to go into business with than the person who knows you better than anybody, the person who knows you inside out, everything that you're not very good at, and the one or two things that you are good at. So for us, it works well. It works really, really well.
Love
Dom,
it.
now you can just completely throw me under the bus.
Well, I think we balance each other out because Elle can be quite fiery at times, and I can be quite. I'd say I'm more of the mellow brother, so we balance each other out. But I think in terms of our journeys, we've both had our own sort of entrepreneurial journeys before working together, and I think that made us realize we sort of want to work together.
Yeah.
So sort of my background is more on the tech side of stuff. So I sort of raised a random investment, launched a tech company, and did that when I was 20 or 21. So I did that for 4 or 5 years. And yeah, it sort of worked across 10 countries, had about 10,000 users. But I think the realization that having your sort of brother as a business partner and someone you can really have very honest conversations with was the thing missing.
Yeah.
And we spoke about it a lot during that period, and we sort of helped each other. He had his own business and he was working within the family business, so we would work closely together. But actually working together, I think, sort of changed the trajectory of sort of our journey. I know you can talk about your journey.
I love it.
I can't believe we've been nice to each other so publicly. A bit weird.
But hey, before you pass the mic over. But,
Elliot's like, who's this Dom guy? Who is this Dom? Oh, man, he's media trained.
All day yesterday to say nice things to me, and you didn't. Yeah. And now we go public.
So who's the older of the two? I'm assuming it's Elliot.
I'm just delighted that you have to ask that question.
I was going to say, I'm insulted that you have to ask that question.
just in case somebody is, just watching, just listening to the podcast.
So I'm the older brother. by 2 years. Dom,
Okay.
who was really heavily insulted, and you'll do well to keep him on the podcast for the remainder of this session, is the younger brother.
Love it. And so I'm hearing so much already in just that little bit that you shared that I really want to dive into, because it's rare that we've had, not only this is our first brother family outside of, a couple, husband and wife, that has come on and kind of shared their journey together. But as you guys both had entrepreneurial backgrounds, Elliot being in a family business, Dom going out into his own, the 2021 doing a capital raise to start a tech company. That is huge, right? But what the underlying thing that I'm hearing from that, and when you said the family business, I was like, okay, you guys saw an example of this, right? Growing up. So talk about those earlier years, just seeing what that family business was, what that meant to you, how that cultivated you, and to start seeing, hey, I this is something, or the direction I want to go in.
Yeah. We both probably got slightly different perspectives as well. So our dad was an IT contractor. So he worked for himself, sort of contracted himself out. And we only ever knew him as a contractor. And what that meant growing up in sort of the mid to late 90s, he would be going out early, getting back late, away for weeks at a time. For not necessarily long periods, but for all our life. And we always knew that there'd be contracts. Those contracts could last 3, 6, 12 months. So there was always an onus on him going out, working for periods of time. And it was always sort of told to us as a business story. So for us, we saw our dad, we had a nice house. We had some of the nicer things in life. We certainly had a very middle-class upbringing. We were fortunate that we never sort of had any of those struggles. Certainly, as I remember, anyway, our parents would probably say something slightly different. They had 4 kids, and things were probably a little bit closer to the wire. But from my perspective, it certainly never felt like that. And that they are my early memories of our dad getting back late, saying how tired he is, dragging him outside to play football in the garden. They are my early memories of him going out to work, and that changed. He started building what was a consultancy, an IT management consultancy, which just sort of naturally developed from him being a contractor and a lot of people in the space, helping his friends get contract gigs, get contract jobs, and that snowballed and developed as we sort of went into our teens. So they're very much my early memories. I don't know what yours are like, Dom.
Yeah, I'd say similar. I think for me, what was probably more interesting was sort of seeing him go out and build a business when I was probably about 15, 16 when he really started building that business. So it wasn't like it wasn't like our entire life he was sort of running businesses, and it was around that. It was as we grew up, started to see, how a family business can run and how it can grow from just one person into, a number of people. And even then I didn't realize I wanted to sort of run my own businesses. I think we almost just fell into it by being terrible employees, which I think is probably, yeah. There's a story in that in itself. And I think that's probably, for a lot of entrepreneurs or business owners, that's the case. Is they try and work for someone else and it just doesn't work out for whatever reason. They don't like how it's run. They don't take no for an answer, and then they sort of go out on their own. I think that's a little bit like what our dad is as well. So yes, it's definitely interesting being around it as we grew up.
Dom, sorry, just quickly, Dom, do you think that we'd be doing this if we didn't have that exposure?
That's the question.
That's the question.
That's a good question
for you.
Yeah, it became the norm. And I think because we started so young and had that opportunity so young, whether Yeah, that's a good question. Probably not.
Yeah.
Probably not.
Yeah.
To be honest.
It
because
says a lot to, you know, what you're cultivated in, what you see, how it forms your mind, your perspective on life, right? It's I'll be 40 this year, and I'm just starting to realize how much alike I am to my parents. And I'll be talking to my mother, and she'll say stuff. I was like, yo, that's exactly what I was thinking. I didn't know that's where I got this from, right? I thought it was from talking to my daddy. I'm like, man, that's exactly why I do things that I'm doing right now. And I'm just realizing this at 40 years old, right? And it's just embedded in you. It's subconsciously your view on life and the things that you aspire to do really stem from, you know, that environment that you're cultivated in. You know, I know Marlon has a similar stories on his end from what he sees his father doing what he did. And then, you know, even though he wasn't aspiring to do it, it just naturally became who he was. So I just love hearing, you know, to see where you guys are now, just and kind of getting that back picture of life. So talk about Marlon, I don't mean to cut you off.
No, you go ahead, man. You're doing a great job, Rick. I was critiquing you. I was actually taking notes, and you hit some points that, Marlon, the background check. That's good. Yeah.
I didn't say military though. Marlon always mentioned military.
Is that again?
No, but anyway, we'll get that later. So, so Dom and Elliot, you guys you're going into your different spaces. Elliot, tell us a little bit more about how you got involved in your family business, but then said, hey, there may be something else out there. Like there may be a pivot for me, and what that looked like for you.
Yeah. So I was, I sort of left college, didn't really know what I wanted to do. Had an opportunity like so many. I just didn't really know where I wanted to be, what I wanted to be doing.
Yeah.
Had an opportunity to help a football coach of mine set up a local coaching school, so a local soccer school. And we grew that from one school to, I think we had 14 schools, a load of different clubs. We were recognized as one of the biggest regional coaching school on the South Coast. And I felt like I'd outgrown that quite quickly. So at 21, I moved to the States, had the opportunity to do something very similar with a national coaching school in Boston. I had about 40 coaches working for me, 650 players, both boys, girls, and just took my experiences from starting something from scratch, taking it into a much bigger, more professional environment. After a year in the States, I came back. I had some visa issues. There was a change of president, which made things a little bit more challenging, but we'll move on. And
you also came back with a bit of a dodgy accent as well.
Oh, for real?
Let's move on. Yeah. Let's move on. We don't need to talk about that.
We're going to talk about it. Trust me. Hey, Dom.
Dom was like, who is this guy? Who is this guy? Who do you think he is?
And even now, like when I jump on and start talking to people from the US, my fiance, soon to be wife, will be going, you do that weird accent. Who are you trying to impress? My words slightly change. But anyway, I came back from the States with a funny accent at 22, and my dad said, listen, we're growing the business. Why don't you just try and just see if you fit in, see how you get on working in the business? I said, no, I don't want to work for you. Gave it a month, and I fell in love with it. I fell in love with him, working for his business partner. They gave me a license to not necessarily do what I wanted, but I didn't feel like I was ever employed by my dad, which was big and quite an important thing for me, because I didn't want a handout, and I definitely didn't get a handout. I had to work, I would say, harder than maybe anybody else to sort of prove to myself, prove to everybody else that I wasn't just here because my dad owned the company.
Yeah.
And I worked for them for 4 years, and it was during that time where Dom was going through a raise. Dom and I shared an office locally in town in Bournemouth. And we sort of realized that there was what we thought a better opportunity to go out and grow something together. Whilst I was trying to grow the family business, Dom was doing his stuff. We stumbled across some growth tactics whilst trying to grow the businesses that, you know, at the time were fairly revolutionary, using technology, using automation. And we navigated a way to work together. And it was a tricky 6 months because telling your dad that you're done, thanks for the opportunity, but we're going elsewhere.
Yeah.
It actually wasn't, it was a difficult conversation, but he took it well.
Yeah.
But it just made the next couple of months a little bit tricky because naturally, you know, I think my dad was quite proud that I'd worked for the family business and we'd grown it together, and it was a huge success.
Yeah.
And the business is doing well. And he often sort of says, you know, I do still wish we were working together. I'm proud of you guys. I'm proud of you and Dom, but I do still wish that we were working together because I get it. I've got a son. I'd love for that opportunity, but equally, you do sort of sometimes have to fly the nest. And for me, I always had a bigger yearning to do my own thing. I had to do my own thing. It was a big thing for me working for my dad. And now I work for Dom, my younger brother, so it didn't work out very well.
So before you go on, man, so travelers, you know how we are, man. You know, people say stuff and as they're talking, and me and Marlon heads are just spinning, like all the things that you're saying that you're not saying, but you're saying, right? And we like to really like pull those things out there. So a couple of things that I highlighted out of there is you said, oh, you grew from the coach that you were working with, the football coach, that you maximize your potential in that. And you said, I got to go somewhere else. So yeah. And that was at the ripe old age of 21, right? 21. And that right there speaks volumes to your capability of being able to build enterprise from an IP, right? An IP being around that coach, that, you know, that football coach, and then going into Boston, and in a year time, duplicating what you did, you know, at home, duplicating that in Boston, and growing that platform, right? And it speaks volumes to capabilities right now, because there have been people that have been trying to work on businesses for 5, 6, 7, 5 years. Let's say 5 years. I'm going to say 6, 7, 8. That's hobby, right? So for 5 years, and they still haven't seen any type of growth. It's still them by themselves at night trying to figure things out, right? What is it that it,
and both of them too, Rick? And
I'm gonna get back over it.
No. That ripe age,
that 20, 21, 22 age time frame. You know, what would you attribute to just your level of being able to enterprise, being able to be that leader, see those things that need to be done and execute on that? And that's for both of you guys, because you guys are both in that space, between 2022, doing some huge things on both your sides.
I think from my perspective, I definitely wasn't thinking about my age at the time. I may have been subconsciously, but I never think back and think, oh, I'm only this, X years old. I'd never, for me, the coaches that I was managing in the UK, out in the States, I just accepted that they were all older than me. And that's been the same when I went into the consultancy. That's the same now. We've always had people working for us that are older than us.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest, when I went out to the States, I was more nervous about moving out to a new country than I was delivering on the job. I knew that I could deliver the task in hand. There was no nervousness whatsoever about delivering on the role. I was nervous about the type of people that I'd be living with. I was nervous about, making sure that people around me had a good lifestyle. Those were my nervousness. It wasn't whether I could do the job. And I do think at that age, you do have a level of fearlessness because you maybe haven't had maybe the failures that you have when you get to where we are now, where we're 10 years on, and we've had a couple of failures where you don't have that nagging thing going, well, hold on, if you do fail, you're going to look like an idiot or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So I think that fearlessness and just the desire to want to be the best in whatever it is was driving me at that age, not well, if this fails, I'm going to be a failure. That's never really been in my mind.
Yeah. What about you, Dom? Like, you go and make this huge raise. Like, first talk about the technology that you were that you were building, right? That idea that you had, and then the process you took to learn what it even looks like to go after a capital raise, to get that off the ground.
Yeah. So, the sort of the tech was focused around recruitment. So this was 7 years ago now. So when video wasn't as sort of prominent, but we we built a sort of an on-demand video recruitment platform. So we sort of built the first version very, very basic, and then sort of went out to sort of angel investors, and the amount of people I spoke to and pitched to. And again, I think when you're going out from my end of it, the being young was probably more of a holding me back a little bit more. But I think
from a capital raise perspective,
and also selling to customers, I think they were just like, who is this kid? Why does he think he knows recruitment? He's had one job. So, and again, I think it's a naivety going in and just looking at things with a clean slate. But for me, I think the reason why that did have success was recognizing that I needed to build really deep relationships with people who knew the space better than me. And, showing them, I don't know everything, but I have the energy to be able to get this done. My focus for the first year was just building relationships with people in the space, and I did that in so many different ways. We had it wasn't a podcast, it was like a video series. For me, that was the way to get into the room with I used that as a way to get in the room with HR and recruitment leaders in companies, instead of doing your traditional way of pitching. So you get half an hour before, you get to speak to them, you then do a video with them, and then you get half an hour after. So it's a perfect time to pitch. And I would always ask them to come on as, an advisor, or, use the product for free in return for using their logo. So we won quite a few customers by just being open to doing things differently. But it all comes down for me to trying to build those deep relationships and show people that you really want to make a change.
Man, now, so tell me what book you picked up in order to build a strategy like that.
What's the secret?
Yeah, I had no idea. I used to just watch endless YouTube videos. I couldn't even tell you now, 6-7 years ago. But what book did I'm not sure.
I'm assuming it probably wasn't, right? It was just by nature of, like, there was a time I worked with a lot of high caliber professionals, faculty members from prestigious universities, and their biggest thing was, hey, I have these ideas, and I want to take my ideas from the lab bench and commercialize it, right? And the most difficult thing was getting them to understand how to make the pivot and shift from feeling like, hey, I know everything. Not feeling like they didn't know a lot in their faculty space and their expertise and research, but transitioning that into the business space, it was reading, it was learning, it was taking classes, it was doing different things. And sometimes, when someone just has it, right? That has it of saying, you know what? I saw what someone did, I heard what they did. Boom, let me just take it and apply it, right?
Yeah.
And you see there's different types of people. There's Marlon and I talk about this all the time. There's enterprising people that have a vision, know how to get that vision to work from A to figuring out what BCDEFG looks like, right? Because you don't have it written down, right? Versus those that need it written down for them and they just follow suit. So, man, I'm just loving hearing the result that you have from just really picking up from an idea and saying, all right, how do I just execute on this every day until it is, fulfilled. Now, let's shift to, okay, you guys realize, man, you guys are sharing an office together, and you realize, man, why are we not doing this? Why are we not doing something together? Right? And what is that thing that we're going to do together? Like, what was that conversation like? Was it over lunch, or were you just on a whiteboard one day?
After about 6 or 7 beers, yeah.
Yeah, when the loving starts again, when you've had a couple of beers, we spoke about it a lot for a long time. So we had a couple of different failed ventures as well, where we sort of tried to get a couple of things off the ground, realized that they were really bad ideas, and decided to scrap that and just wait for something else to pop up. So we probably had 2 or 3 moments where we thought we had something, we get something from an idea into a concept, realize that concept is absolutely abysmal, and we scrap it and we go and sort of carry on doing what we were doing. I think the realization happened probably 2 years before we actually started something, and it took us a couple of years to get to a point where we were comfortable with whatever this idea was. And that idea, whilst externally it seems like we had it all together, we were still figuring out a lot of stuff. We had tried and tested sort of growth tactics within the 2 different companies, and they did have a lot of success. But we still, at the time of launching our first company together, we still didn't really know what we were going to do. We realized that Dom was much more technical. Dom was the brain, and I could somewhat sell that concept. We didn't really have an idea as to who we were going to go to or what we were going to do. We just decided to speak to people and try and sell something. If we could sell something and then deliver it in a period of 3 to 6 months, we knew we had something. What that something was, we didn't know. So we dived in and let sort of fate take its course.
Yeah.
That sounds really washy and willy.
No,
but that wasn't the truth.
That's what it is.
You know what happened? We interviewed Dave Dillinger, I think, or Sellinger. Dave, if you heard me mess up your last name, charge it to my head, not my heart.
And you see, and you see all of our listeners how on point I am with last.
Nah.
You know
Rick be messing up names. If you listen to this podcast, I'm usually the one that got it. You know what I'm saying?
Listen, so those are in my past. That's my past.
Rick's trying to bury them all on.
Yeah. That's all right. That's all right. I'll let him do it. I'll let him do it. He don't know what I got in this hole right here. Pause. So and he said he's the creator of Redfin. I don't know. Redfin over here, the app that they use for real estate.
Okay, nice. Yeah.
Similar to a Zillow.
Similar to a Zillow, or I don't know what they use in the UK, but it's one of the prominent apps for real estate. And he worked with Bezos, and he's just like, that was a side hobby. Redfin was a side gig that turned to what it turned to. So a lot of times somebody see you on the outside and they think you got it all together, and they don't know that you are like, I think Elon Musk don't know what he's doing with Twitter.
He's learning on the job.
He's learning on the job. He just pivoted totally different from what he said he ultimately wanted Twitter for. Was supposed to be a platform. He took it from the public space to a private space, and then he said, I wanted to make a platform where free speech is. Now he went and hired somebody that was a CEO over at NBC, where people are like, that's totally counter to what he said. So these guys are trying to figure it out as they go along, and people got to understand that. Now, I heard you said that you have 2 other siblings, right?
Yes. Yep.
Where did they fit in this equation? Do they see you guys and be like, you know what happened, guys? we're gonna stick with dad on this,
or something else.
or what? Or how do they fit in this equation, or what's the deal with them?
Yeah, so one of them, one of our older sisters actually works with us, and she was our first employee actually, and that's a story in itself because we didn't want to employ her.
Give her a raise, guys. Come on.
Yeah. No, we really didn't want to employ her. We'd interviewed somebody else for a role. We sort of got to this point where Dom and I were doing, near enough everything. Dom was trying to close down his other company. I was exiting the family business. We knew we needed support. We'd interviewed somebody that we were literally about to hire. And she, for some reason, phoned me that night at about 8:30 saying, "You got to get me out of my job. I am done. I would do anything." And I'm like, "Oh, God, don't do this to me. Don't put me under this pressure." Imagine going back and telling mum and dad that we didn't hire her.
Oh, man.
And that she's now unhappy.
Her resume wasn't strong, Dad. Her resume just wasn't strong.
God, the pressure. So I called Dom. And I was like, "I just had this phone call from Sammy. We're just going to have to hire her." So, we just went, let's just see what happens. Let's hire her. And it turned out to be amazing. She has been unbelievable for the company. She's an unbelievable employee. Not that it's a sort of, founder-employee relationship, because it's not at all. She's our older sister, so that adds a lot of complexities.
Yeah.
But she's been amazing, and it is a success story in itself. We're glad we did it.
And I think it's that similar thing to what you went through when you were in the family business. She feels like she has to work harder to prove, almost like, not that she has to, but prove her work.
Oh, no, she does.
Yeah.
Yeah. Rightly so. I'm joking.
And then there's one more. And then there was one. What happened to that other one?
You going, Dom?
You can go with Shah.
So Shah,
boy.
No. Shah's the eldest. She's the eldest sibling, and she part owns I don't even know how you describe it, like a kids soft play cafe.
Oh, wow.
So it's like a cafe with like climbing frames, and I don't even know how you describe it. I'm well out of my comfort zone here.
I don't have kids,
playground.
so I'm even more out of my depth.
Starbucks for kids.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
Like that. Make a note.
Yeah.
Hey, I want 5%.
I like your style. So she's on her own entrepreneurial journey, which is great. So it has flooded the family.
Oh man.
Man, I'm telling you. So let me tell you something. So my son is gonna probably edit this last episode. This will be one of the last episodes he ever. He worked for me. He worked for us, right?
Love it.
He did the editing and everything. And this Saturday he sent me a long text, because kids nowadays they don't they don't call. They're like yeah, same thing. I'm gonna spread my wings and fly. And he's giving me all these different things, and I'm like, all right. And I just have to say, hey man, I'm here for you. Anything that you want to do, let me know.
I like it.
If it costs you a lot, don't call me.
Stay over there.
Stay over there.
You're not getting anything.
Yeah, I know a guy. Call him.
Yeah.
But that's the biggest thing. Now you coming. Let me understand. You being in business, and I don't know, Dom, if you came over here and did any business or anything like that. I know you say you visited once in a while, but being that you did business over here, and then you're doing business over there, how is the two different, similar, and what did you take from here? Because the States could be totally different than England. I think we're more treacherous.
I don't know. And we are now back doing business in the US as well. So one of the agencies that we own are a US agency. We've got US clients, so we are very much sort of spread between UK, Europe, US.
Yeah.
I don't think the differences are as wide as people think. I think there is often a conception around how the Brits do business, how the Europeans do business, and how people in the US do business. There are minor subtle differences. I have not noticed anything that is so far apart where things are wildly different. You know, even when it comes to like the legalities of business, some areas can be, there's more red tape. In other areas of the world, things are more relaxed.
Yeah.
There's nothing that, if you're an entrepreneur or you're in a business, you have to be somewhat adaptable, whether that's with people, whether that's with whatever it is. You have to be able to adapt and just get on with it. Nothing is that drastic. I do find the people in the US are a lot more black and white, in that we're either doing this or we're not.
Okay.
So therefore it's a little bit easier. Whereas I think in the UK we can be a little bit too polite and try and not hurt people's feelings, and sort of that ends up in a weird little, you just sort of getting strung along. In the US it's like either yes or no. This is what I like and this is what I don't, and you just get it. Whereas yeah, I think in the UK it can be a little bit more tiptoe around a lot of the facts. I don't know what you think, Dom.
Yeah, that's the same as what I was going to say. When you're doing sales in the US, I think you get to an answer a lot quicker. Like you can just have one sales call and they're like, "This isn't for me." Whereas, yeah, in the UK, sometimes they'll jump on a second and a third, and then you're chasing them down, and they just tell me no. Like,
Yeah.
I don't,
Yeah.
I don't care that much.
Yeah. Right. Neither, right.
Yeah. You got to go
so-
for that hard close.
Yeah. So that's the only difference that I would say. Just the sales is more straightforward in the US.
Love it. Now, talk to us about just your business in itself today. Like, what does it look like? What have you guys built? How are you guys changing the world?
Not changing the world that much.
That's what you say, man.
Yeah. No, you got to be a little bit more humble. We've got a lead generation agency which is based here in the UK called Social Chaps. That was the first venture that Dom and I started. That's got I think it's got 12 people in it now, and clients, mainly agencies, consultancies, and SaaS companies. That is sort of a blend between tech, creativity, and then a human element. So that's Social Chaps. We acquired a company called Speak On Podcasts, which is why we're here. So thank you to the team at Speak On Podcasts.
Yeah.
They're a US based podcast guest booking agency, and we acquired them back in December. Met with Mark and Jakob, who are the previous owners. Loved what they did, loved what they do, and we wanted to get into a slightly different industry, still within the agency space, but a slightly different industry.
Yeah.
So we struck a deal coming up to sort of 6 months ago now. And then we've got minority shareholdings in 3 agencies in the UK, which are, Dom, do you want to talk about the agencies here?
Yeah, so the agent, I mean, I guess there's 2 sides to this. Chapman Capital, which is the group which sort of owns all of these and invests in these. So Chapman Capital sort of is me and Al. We sort of acquire and invest through that group, and then the agencies that we have minority shareholdings in are in sort of like Marcom Communications, social, and then TV advertising. So slightly different to what we've done before, but still really exciting. But most of the things we do is within marketing and PR and communications. So that's where we sit. And I think as Chapman Capital, what we bring to the table is sort of the commercial and the lead generation, the sales, which a lot of agency owners struggle with. A lot of the time they start off as a freelancer, they're great at, maybe a designer or a branding expert, and then they fall into this being a small business owner and then end up doing the things they don't like doing. So we're doing really good work in supporting those guys in getting out of doing the stuff they don't enjoy and getting back to what they do enjoy.
And a lot of those experiences are from several failed attempts in the other agencies. I think one of the things when we were talking, Rick, when you asked Dom about, what book did you read? A lot of it is you try something. Does it work? Yes. Does it work? No. And then you just sort of find your way. It's not, a lot of this is removing the failure or the fear of failure, removing the ego. Nobody cares whose idea it is. Nobody cares if it doesn't work. We're all agreed that this might be a good idea. Let's crack on. Let's give it 3, 6, 12 months, whatever it is. And let's assess. It might be a tweak of that. It might be that we scrap it all together. And I think that is the speed in which that's how you grow quickly. You try things, you iterate, you fail, you iterate, you fail. And it's a constant cycle. So we're taking a lot of what we've learned and a lot of those failures into the new agencies and saying, listen, this is how you don't do it. This is the framework of how to do it.
Yeah. I love it.
Yeah. Business now, having that business acumen. I know your dad had it. Your dad was doing it. He was private contractor and stuff like that. Now, for us over here, you go register a LLC, get your EIN number, get your tax number, take your company, and then you start working it, right? How is it building a business over there? And because there's a lot of people that's probably they're going to be listening to the UK that's saying, you know what, man, these guys the Chapman brothers inspired me. So let's go ahead and do this. And we want to be able to give them an opportunity, even in the States here, to say, hey, this is how you formalize your business. This is how you worked it out. This is how you made sure that you had the proper things in place so that when you're able to get these contracts or do these partnerships or whatever the situation is, that you have your everything above board.
So if I talk about the sort of the boring legal stuff for about 1 minute, which people need to hear, and then I'll let Dom talk about how you get from nowhere to get to 5 clients, for example, because there is sort of a strategy that we go by. So the first thing that you'd need to do in the UK if you are going to operate as a limited company, so that's the equivalent to an LLC in the US, you've got to register your company with Companies House. Fairly straightforward paperwork. You can either do it yourself. It'll probably take you 10 minutes online, or you get an accountant to do it and it'll cost you about £100. So it's fairly inexpensive to do. You won't necessarily need to register for VAT, which is sales tax, straight away because you need to meet a certain threshold. I wouldn't do that in the first instance. Don't get yourself bogged down with too much.
Yeah.
And any accountant will be able to do that for you. They don't need to be an absolute tax mastermind. Any accountant will be able to help you doing that, and it will take you 48 hours on a really slow day. So the actual setting up of a company is pretty straightforward. In terms of winning your first clients, this is what we try and push. People who want to step into this space, try and sell something first, and then worry about all the other stuff afterwards, because the setting up of the company, that's not the hard part here. The hard part is actually selling something. And Dom, I know obviously we speak about this a lot.
Yeah, I think people get bogged down on brand, web, like building your website, building your brands, logo. I mean, when we got to, I think, about 12-15k a month with Social Chaps without a website. So we are sort of living proof that you don't need any of that. And I think, again, it goes back to relationships. But for us, I think understanding roughly what you're going to sell, obviously you need that. And if you're going into service-based business, so agency or consultancies, for us, or how we do it, and when we start new little projects, we always try and focus on maybe going local to start with, going straight to LinkedIn, going on Sales Navigator and just searching maybe whatever that customer persona is. Usually it's founders or heads of marketing. Reach out to, 20, 30, 40 and just get some conversations going. and really quickly you'll get an idea if they're interested or not, or if it's going to stick. And I was on with one of our clients the other day, and he had a previous business, and then he's now got a new business. And we were talking about how it feels when you get it right, and it's like swimming with a current in the sea versus swimming without a current. And it's a really weird feeling when you're really trying to sell and no one's taken it, but you're stuck on the idea or the product or the service, and you think it's right. Just accept that it needs tweaking and you need to change. So let the customers guide you on what they need, and then rough ballpark by doing some market research, sell 3 or 4 of those, deliver, and then just go again, and just scale up. You don't have to stay local, go national, go to some of the major cities, and that's it. It's just sell and deliver on repeat, especially on the service-based stuff.
One of the big mistakes I think a lot of particularly new agencies make is they get so bogged down with like the brand logo, this is who we need to be, and they try and appear to be a really reputable brand despite having never delivered the service. What Dom and I do, and the advice that we give, is own the fact that you're brand new, sell based on your experience as to why you can deliver this.
Yeah.
Tell whoever it is. So if I'm selling to you guys, this service that we're going to sell, whatever it is, in 6 months' time, once I get this right, this is going to be $3,000 a month. But for you guys, I'm going to do you a special deal. In return, I want a case study, I want a video testimonial, and I'll do it for you guys at $1,000. It's at cost. I just want you guys to be my guinea pig, where we work together. You give me live feedback. Get 5 of those customers. That way, and again, it doesn't matter what the service costs, right? What you're telling some people, I'm not saying you need to lie, but what you're telling some people, it may well be going up, but at the same time, you could be going, okay, well, nice. I've never earned £5,000 a month in my life. I need to deliver this.
Yeah.
But it's a lot of this is, I think new agency owners try and give this impression off that they're a new director, they're a brand new company. This is my new agency. Look how nice and shiny it is, rather than saying, I need to figure out what I'm delivering here and the service that I'm going to offer. Work with me. I'm brand new and I'm going to make mistakes. Because of that, I'm going to give it to you for 75% off.
Yeah.
In that 6 months, we're going to work together and you're going to give me live feedback. And then you've built a product or a service whilst being paid to do so.
Yeah.
Yes.
I love it, man.
We love this. We could keep you guys here all morning. All night. Just talking about entrepreneurship, and I know Ricky's gonna wrap it up. Ricky's our wrap-up guy. He's our closer.
Yeah.
I'm hearing a lot that a lot of people are scared to do what you guys are doing, or what any entrepreneur does, and it's that risk factor. They're scared of risk, scared of making mistakes, and they think they got to get it right on the first time. And what they got to learn is that a lot of time you see, no matter how big the corporation is, I don't care if it's Amazon, there is some factor of, I don't know, we're stepping to an unknown territory and we're trying to figure it out. And but what they do is they try to figure it out, and like you do the customer discovery, they're doing all the different things, and they're doing this constantly because they just don't think they have it, and then they leave it at that. They constantly doing the customer discovery, making sure they're applying whatever they learn to the market. So I want to thank you guys for just being able to give those insights to people, to let them understand that, first of all, you could work with family, and and secondly that. And secondly, that you guys, hey, just try it, test it, keep on going, shift where you may. Rick, the closer.
Nah, what you got, man? Say? You actually close it up for us, man. There you go, right? Dom and Elliot, it has been a pleasure, just and refreshing. A lot of times, Marlon and I do this selfishly because it's one of those things where we get to meet a lot of people, right? We meet people from all over the place, all the walks of life. The amount of people that we've interviewed to date, and there's the different stories and different perspectives that we were able to glean from them, and how that has helped us, really grow on our endeavors and things that we do. We would never, forever grateful for this platform, even for ourselves, and just having people like yourselves come on and just share your journeys, right? One thing I want to do before we do let you guys go is just give people an opportunity to connect with you, right? So if there's any information that you can share with them, whatever, this is the opportunity right now, please do that so they can reach out to you.
Yeah, for sure. So drop us both a connection on LinkedIn. It's Elliot Chapman, Elliot. Hopefully you can spell Chapman, and Dom. Hopefully you can spell Dom Chapman, both on LinkedIn. And it's Elliot at Chapman.capital. We get a lot of founders at various different stages of their journey, reaching out to us, asking us for advice. One of the things that we love doing is just connecting with new people like yourself. This is what gives us energy, is meeting new founders, meeting new people. So yeah, drop us a line. And thanks for the chat, gents. It's been lovely.
Thank you.
Likewise.
Likewise. Well, travelers, man, we've come to the end of another show, and just like we say every single week, we'll be here again next week at the same time, the same place on the Success Journey Show. Everyone have a good one. Peace.
One love.
You've been listening to the Success Journey Show, where your dreams, drive, determination, and diligence are the foundation to success. For more information, check out thesuccessjourneyshow.com. The Journey Squad is here helping you to your destination.